So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about metric units and the key concept of lengths of measure. So in order to start this lesson, we got to look at these different things that you've heard about sometime in your life. You've heard about a thing called the kilometer, the centimeter, the millimeter, and the meter. My question for you to start today's lesson would be, can you organize these from smallest to largest? Let's do that going from right to left or up and down. It doesn't matter. Pause the video and try it right now. All right, what do you think is the smallest? Yes, if you got millimeter, you are correct. The smallest thing is a millimeter. Now, what's the next biggest thing? You've got kilometer, centimeter, and meter. If you guess centimeter to be the next largest thing, you're right. Now, between kilometer and meter, which one do you think is smaller? It is the meter. And finally, we have the kilometer. Okay? You've heard of all of these used many different places throughout your life. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to solidify what each of these mean and give you an idea of how you can relate them to your own self and things around you. So one of the biggest things that we have difficulty with is understanding how each of these different symbols are related to you as a person. When you hear the word millimeter, the symbol for millimeter is millimeter, which is mm. And what would you measure with something that was a millimeter? So let's say that you looked at a coin. And you looked at not the face of the coin, which is the circle of the coin, but turn the coin sideways so that you see the very flat, thin edge at the side of the coin. That is what you would measure in millimeters. Okay? Now, other things that you could measure in millimeters could be, say, the width of a book, the width of a CD, things like that. Okay? When you talk about the word centimeter, centimeter is written as cm. Now, when you take a look at, say, your nail, you can read that in terms of millimeters. You can also look at your toes, and you could measure your toes as though they were in centimeters, right? Now, here's the crazy part. If I want to go from millimeters to centimeters, I divide by 10. Don't worry, we'll talk about that later. Okay, and now let's continue with the meter. So with the meter, here's what I want you to remember with the meter. The meter is just m. And the things that you can measure with a meter or a meter stick could be the length of a leg. Maybe the length of your table. Maybe the length of your car. Okay? Things like that can be measured with a meter. And another thing you could measure could be the length of your TV as well. So now when we talk about the kilometer, okay? The kilometer has the symbol km, and you can think of a kilometer as what we measure with the distance between cities. Cities and towns, actually. So for example, Listowel to Wingham. I'd say it's maybe about 30 kilometers. And now you have an idea of how these different distances relate to the real world. Now, I'm just going to add a couple more things to this. Now, your centimeter can also turn into a meter, and we divide our centimeters by 10. And we do the same again to go from meters to kilometers. But instead of kilometers, we're going to divide by 1,000. You'll eventually see how all of these things will tie together. So let's do some practice here. Let's guess the unit of measure. So what I want you to do is take a look at each of these things. We're going to number them from 1 to 8. And what I want you to do is I want you to try and get an idea of what you think would be an appropriate length using centimeters, meters, or kilometers and millimeters to represent each of these different things. So pause the video, and we'll do all of them after you've sat down with your parent, came up with an idea of what these different lengths are. So for a notebook, if I was looking at the height of our notebook paper, I was thinking I'd look at it and say, okay, we got 15 centimeters, 25 centimeters, 1 meter, or 60 centimeters. 60 centimeters is close to the length of my leg, so that'd be too much paper to write on. 25 centimeters looks almost right, so I would circle this as my possible length for a piece of paper. Now, I would suggest if you have a chance, or you have, say, a ruler in the house, use the ruler to kind of look at what the ruler is compared to that thing you're playing with. So now let's talk about our football. A football. Is it 60 centimeters, 25, 3 centimeters? Well, 3 centimeters is too small. If I was looking at 3 centimeters would be the length of the last little appendage of my finger, the last little block on my finger. So that's definitely out. A football can't be a meter because I know John Brady can't do that. So it's either between 60 and 25. 60 is too big, so I'm thinking it's 25. So for a key, all right, let's take a look at a key. So for our key is not 2 meters. No way. Too big. 2 meters is like 200 centimeters. Not going to happen. As for 150 centimeters, could you just imagine if you had a 150 centimeter key? You'd have to wear that on your back. Couldn't use that one. 15 centimeters is about the size of a cell phone. That's not going to work either. So our answer should be D. For this next one, clothing iron, the answer will be 40 centimeters. So pause the video, and if you want, I'd like you to go and check the lengths of all these different things in your house, and then come back and do the last 4, and I will circle them for you. Okay, I hope you paused the video because now I'm about to do the work. So right here, this pencil, 20 centimeters thereabouts. For this bandage, it's not 1 meter or else it would cover like your whole leg. 9 centimeters seems okay. 60 centimeters is way too big. So 9 centimeters. As for a lollipop, we have a 10 centimeter lollipop. Sometimes you can have 30-centimeter lollipops, but those are the ones that you get at the big fair, where it's where you have a lollipop about as big as your head. Okay. Now, how about the dryer? The dryer is about 1 meter tall at least. So now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go online, and I would like you to try the practice questions that I have online with respect to the units of measure of everyday things that you see in the world. The more you do, the more you'll start to make sense of these different distances. So I want you to practice that. Then I'm going to ask you to practice the one sheet that I have for this. And then I'd like you to do the next video.